This is not a story. It's a statement about the hill. Just so you know, in case you need to. The hill is, well, what its name describes. It's land, timeless. It's been there for almost as long as there's been a there to be. It's clothed mostly in trees. There are some meadows too, but it's among the woodland that its presence is strongest. About those trees, I suppose to it the forest is a little like hair to a human body, part of the whole, but much shorter lived, almost insignificant compared to the greater mass, but still rooted, albeit shallowly, in the organism, even though I wouldn't want to head up there with an axe any time. It's partly through the trees that I learned of it. I'll explain that in a minute. Awareness of it came little by little, for me anyway. It came in glimpses. They began when I was 13, I suppose, at the time when I chose to do my lonely walking in the countryside near home at twilight, captivated by the disappearance of the more familiar daytime landscape and animals, and their replacement by the mysterious, potent darkness, and the waking of their more often heard than seen nocturnal counterparts. Awareness came in the sudden death screams of an animal, a rabbit or a hedgehog. Did you know they shriek like a woman in pain? Being killed by a predator. In the night black bushes a foot away from me, that is. It came too in moods and feelings of discomfort, of twitches of the landscape, creaks and rustlings. It was hinted at in the too human-sounding cries of a vixen that had lost a cub. It came in the way a tree you are counting on as a landmark to find your way home isn't quite where you expect it to be. Reminders that nature is not just blood and fur. Nature is raw, is gaping. Awareness came in hints, in suspicions, then, maybe, knowledge. Finally, it came in a vision from another night, of something it had done centuries before, a flash that might have been nothing more than a moment's adolescent hallucination, of high-sloped meadow, two-dimensionally black against the twilight sky, and across its ridge, silently screaming, a silhouetted man running, on fire. The hill sent flames that were eating him, streaming out behind him like a pursuing cloak. It didn't stop me walking there. It was, and remains, a feeling, a suspicion, conjecture. If you let something like that change your habits, then you've allowed it to become a superstition, a credo, a belief. Before you know it, you'll be carrying charms to ward it off, or worshipping it. The trees, though, I've always been careful about them. Even though if the hill exists, it surely has to be indifferent to humanity, given our comparative individual feebleness. To it, I would be nothing more than a fleeting figure in a speeded-up film, a tiny, short-lived insect walking across its face. But even insects get brushed away, or swatted. I was never sure if knowledge alone was enough to move it to action, even though I was sure that if you know about it, it knows that you know. I love woodland more than I love any type of place, more than beaches or sunlit plazas or the desert at night or diving on reefs. But I remind myself how easy it would be for it to pinch out the existence of such a minor annoyance as someone like me. Just by moving the trees, for example, so that the way out is lost or closed. You'd starve to death. Or maybe it would keep you alive in there, alone, a moss-grown starveling forever outside of human contact. It's capable of that, I'm sure, and more. I dreamed once of someone running, pursued by a smothering storm of leaves. It could do that too, but I think if I ever really made it angry, or became inconvenient, then it's in the woods that it would put an end to me. I've been surrounded too often by trees not to have thought about what would happen if they closed in, making a tighter, smaller, entrapping circle. If you've walked alone in forest, you must have wondered the same thing. I told a friend about it once. He was staying over at mine. We were teens, me in bed, him on a couch, the room dark, us talking the night away. Me trying to explain the hill and how that was just a convenient name for it. And as I did, and as it came clearer in my mind, and the pieces fell together, and I talked more and more understandingly and enthusiastically, he saw me, the essential me, that is, as being drawn further and further towards it, until he was too frightened to speak, and say that the more I began to understand and explain it, the more I was surrendering myself to it. Did I mention that I was lucky enough to have a bedroom with a wonderful view over the countryside, the window filled with a view of the hill? I was with the same friend in another place, another day, quite far from home, where I stared for too long at a painting of a woodland scene until it seemed that it was taking on 3 dimensions, and the leaves were moving and rustling, and I was suddenly scared, because for the first time I understood that you didn't have to be at the hill for it to reach out and find you. Was there a way to protect myself? I'm not sure there was, or is, apart from knowledge, but that too has its risks. Remember, once you know about it, it knows about you. After that, if you go down to the woods today, you might be in for a big surprise. I've come to believe that it's simply too ancient for there to be any precautions that can be taken against it, from exorcism to carrying charms of iron or oak, or burning sacrifices alive in wicker cages, though I'm sure they've all been tried. But, like mankind, they're all too new to have any power over it. It's too ancient to be affected by man's imaginings. It's as old as the hills. There, I've explained it, I hope. This is not a story. It's a statement. About the hill. Just so you know. Because now you might need to.